In this video, I want to show you how I've set up your Canvas course for AMP2 lecture. So what you're seeing here is our home screen, and I'm sure you've noticed there are several buttons on the home screen right here. Of course, this video you access by clicking this button. Make sure you look through all of these, and then over on the left, it's very important. I want to look at this syllabus link. Now, the syllabus link is, when you look in the navigation area, will bring you to this page that has two very, very important documents in it. One is my course syllabus that has all of my policies and procedures. As you read that, um, take special note on attendance, the attendance policy. At Hines with online classes, we count attendance every week. And if a week goes by that you don't submit anything that is due that week, you will be counted absent. And there's a limit as to how many of those absences you can have. If it's a full semester course, you're allowed 2 of those, 2 weeks of absence. If it's the 8-week course, which some of you are taking my 8-week class set up the same way, there's a limit of just 1 absence. Once you've reached that limit, a notice of absence will be sent to your Hines email, and you'll need to, make sure you're aware of that. And if you continue to be absent, then you'll be dropped from the course with either a WF if you're failing at that point, or a WP if your average is passing. So make sure you read about the attendance in the course syllabus. The other thing I need you to make sure you read about is how the grades will run. And you'll see as you read it that you've got 3 types of grades. You also, if you look on the far right of your screen here, you'll see you have weekly graded assignments, you have non-proctored tests, and you have proctored tests. Well, that's explained a little more fully in the syllabus, but the weekly assignments are going to be like a weekly quiz. There may be a labeling activity. There's just a variety of weekly assignments. But they're going to add up to be just 15% of your grade. You might wonder, well, why is it so, it's just a small amount of my grade? Well, it's because you can basically cheat on these. You can look up answers. You've got all week long to make sure everything's just right before you submit them. So, but that's just to kind of keep you on track every week. You're going to have 6 tests in this class. Each test is going to cover 2 chapters. 3 of your tests will be non-proctored, so you take them at home during the open times, and I'll show you how to know what those are. But they are on a short time limit. Every one of your tests have a time limit of 40 minutes. These tests are 50 questions each, and they're mostly multiple choice and matching. So if you've studied the material and you're not looking up answers, you should easily have enough time in that 40-minute time frame. I look at how long it takes on students to take tests, and I've noticed that on proctored tests, most students are done in like 20 minutes. So 40 minutes is plenty of time to get these tests run. All right, and then your proctored test will be done with the virtual proctor called Honor Lock. You can see, and I'll explain Honor Lock in some other areas on the course. But Honor Lock is a virtual proctor. So unlike last fall, you will not have to go to campus to take a proctored test. You can do it virtually. It won't cost you any money. Like we did have virtual proctoring last fall. The students had to pay for that. The school is paying for this. You don't even have to sign up for a time because it's done virtually. You can take it anytime you want during the open days for that test. But your proctored tests, even though they're done virtually, you will be watched by a virtual proctor. And so it's very important that you study really hard for those because, of course, you can't use books, you can't look away from the screen. All of that is going to be recorded, and then I have access to that, and I can watch where your eyes go when you're taking that test. So I don't mean to scare you, I just mean to prepare you Study, study, study for those. But the proctored tests will add up to 55% of your final grade. That you will have 3 proctored tests, you'll have 3 non-proctored tests that are 30% of your grade, and then you'll have activities every week that will be graded, and they are 15%. All right, the course schedule is this other document. Now, I am going to open this up and show it to you on this video. This is a document that if it were me as the student, I would make sure that I printed this out and I kept it at my laptop or whatever my device is. I kept it with me all the time as I'm preparing. You can see on this document, I've got it set up in weeks. Now, this particular one is for my full semester, so you'll see the whole 15 weeks. Those of you who are in my 8-week class, you'll see the 8 weeks. And this is just a quick little snapshot that tells you which chapter or chapters. If you're in the 8-week class, we usually cover 2 chapters, many weeks. But it tells you which chapters we'll be covering each week and when those weekly assignments are going to be due. All of our assignments, the weekly assignments and the tests, everything's going to be due on Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. except for the very last week. They're going to be due on a Thursday. The last day of class will be on Friday, so that'll give me just a little extra window to get things done. All right, so here it also tells you each when these tests are coming. So your first test, you can see for this course, for the full semester class, your first test is going to be during week 4. So while you're working on all the activities for the chapter of the blood, you'll also be have that test. You'll take one of the days, one of those open days during that week. All right, so this is it's real important. So you don't ever have to have a question about, oh, what am I supposed to be studying this week? Here's one place you can find that information. But there's another place, and that's in the modules. So let's look at our modules. Oh, wait, before we go to modules, I want to show you something. If you scroll down, you can see that here's a little quick place to look at what's going to be due each week. This does not tell you when everything opens. It simply is, oh, at the last minute, make sure on Sunday, September 6th, that you don't go to bed until you've done the quiz, done the discussion, and so forth. But this is not what I would follow if I was a student. There's something better, and I'm going to show you that. That's in your modules. And our Canvas courses are set up in these modules. This first one is one that all students are seeing in their Canvas course, whether they're taking a face-to-face class or an online class. It all has to do about the policies dealing with the COVID at Hines. So make sure you go through this, and there's a little acknowledgement quiz. It's not really for a grade. There's a point attached, but it won't affect your grade any, but it's important. Hines wants you to take this. So make sure you go through all of this. It's very important. It all has to do with the coronavirus. All right, then the next module is an introduction module that all of your Canvas courses have. This is put out by eLearning, and there's important Hines information, and then for the people taking online classes like you, there's all the distance learning policies and procedures. Make sure you read that, and then once you do this, you'll take this orientation survey. Every one of your online classes has this same survey in it. You have to take it in every one of your classes. So taking it once doesn't mean you don't have to in the others. You have to take it in every class because this is what we as instructors will use to determine if we're going to keep the student in the class after the first week. So if you don't turn this in, that's your way of saying you don't want to stay in the class and we drop you from it. So make sure you do that. You can open this survey up all week long. You can take it as many times as you want. So there's no reason not to make 100 on it. But the answers to the question are from this other information that you see in the introduction module. Then I've also put a few other links in here. One is about your ebook. You will have a downloadable ebook, and this explains that. So make sure you read that. And then this next link explains all about that honor lock proctored testing and the instructions for that. You have to have your computer set up to take it through honor lock. It's very very important that you do all of that ahead of time before that first test comes. So I've explained all that, and then there's a little practice quiz. Oops, didn't mean to click on that. Let me go back. There's a little practice quiz that will simply walk you through setting your computer up so that you can take future online proctored tests. All right, so once you've gone through the introduction module, then the rest of this area is set up in weekly modules. So I'm just sort of scrolling through these. All right, this is where you will go on a daily basis just to learn what you need to be studying from your book. All right, and so you've got that ebook. Your ebook, it's in the link called Bookshelf that's up in the course navigation. But you can download that so it can be on your device, so you don't have to have Wi-Fi to get to it. And so, but I've got in the instruction module, I have all the um, explanations for that. So make sure you read it. Then in these weekly modules, I have these set up in the same format every week. Just your little objectives, don't that they're just very generic, simple objectives that gives an overview of what you'll be covering. But what you really want to look at is this weekly agenda. You will have a detailed agenda that tells you exactly what you need to study and what you need to turn in. And so there's no excuse. All right, and so if I open up this first week's agenda, now this one is very long just because it's the first week and I'm telling you everything, kind of like I am on this video. But this is going to tell you, like once you've done that introduction module, all right, then it's going to walk you through the rest of this weekly module, and it's going to tell you that we're going to be studying, for example, chapter 12, and you'll be using your ebook, and then you're going to go through some other links in that module. All right, and so I explain all of that here. I'm not going to read it now because as you start your first week, you'll be able to read that yourself. But going back to the module itself, okay, so where are we? Okay, this is where we were. We were looking at that weekly agenda. And it's going to say you're going to need to read chapter 12 in your ebook and then click on this link. Now, this link for chapter 12 is a page that I have set up. This is not a link to the actual ebook. That's over in your bookshelf link. All right, but if I click on this one that says chapter 12, this has a lot of information that you will use as you study this chapter. For example, your notes. I've got PowerPoint notes for each class. This is where the test questions come from these notes. If you can understand these notes well enough to explain them to someone else, then you should have a pretty good handle on the material. But there's a lot of ways that you can go about understanding these notes. First of all, you'll want to print them out. They are PowerPoint, they're big. You will probably want to print more than one slide on a page. Once you've printed them out, then with them sitting on the desk with you with pencil in hand, scroll down and you're going to see some recordings. Now, these recordings were done in an actual classroom with students taking a face-to-face class. And this is me explaining those same PowerPoint notes. So here you're seeing some pictures of some of the slides that are in those notes. But I'm talking, I'm drawing. You can see a little squiggle line. And I'm drawing on these as I talk. So in other words, this is like you sitting in a classroom looking at the board. And the teacher is talking with you. All right. These are long. Some of these are over an hour in length because I did these, Tuesday, Thursday class, and so they could be an hour and 15 minutes in length. But that's why you got a pause button. So view these while you've got your notes in front of you, taking notes just like you would if you were sitting in the classroom. Then, just like if you were in a face-to-face class, after you've viewed these videos or gone to class, You're viewing the videos. It's like you go into class. Then you've got to go home and you've got to learn that material that was just presented to you. If it takes me an hour to explain it on a video, and I've been doing this for almost 35 years now, if it takes me an hour to explain it, don't you think it's going to take you longer than an hour at home studying it? All right, and so I'm just trying to stress to you that this AMP2 is a big course, much more so than AMP1. It's got more volume, more meat in it, and there's a lot of physiology, there's a lot of anatomy, and you have got to put in the time. I find that most students who are not successful in AMP2 is because they don't put in the time. They do the busy work. They get everything turned in on a weekly basis. Yes, they do all of that. They may view the recordings, but just because you're viewing it doesn't mean you've sat down and learned it. So just like when you go to class on campus, just going to class is not worthy of getting an A. In my class, it's not. And so I'm sure it's not in all of your classes. So you need to, once you leave that classroom, then you study the material. All right, and so make sure you print your notes, and then with the notes in front of you, view these recordings, just like you were in a classroom. And you've got recordings for all of the chapters. And each week, whatever we cover, you're going to have recordings for it. Then, if you scroll on down, you can also see a couple of more links. Here's a study guide. Now, this you might want, what I would do after you've learned your notes, or you think you've learned them, open up this study guide and see if you can answer the questions without looking at your notes. And if you can, if you've got a really good handle on that, then you should be prepared for future tests on this chapter. If you can't, then that's going to tell you which areas you're weak on. So that's another study tool. So I've shown you 3 study tools. You've got, well, actually 4, your book itself, your notes, the recordings, and this study guide. Now you don't turn in the study guide. It's not for grade. This is your self-study. So this is just another item that you use as you're learning those notes. The study guide comes from the notes, the recordings come from the notes, all of that comes from the book. So, I don't have all this just in my mind. It's from the book. Okay. Now, then I've got another link. Some of you may have used this if you've taken other McGraw-Hill, that's our book company, McGraw-Hill courses. It's called Learn Smart. And this is just an adaptive uh, study tool that is going to help you see what areas you're weak on. So many of you have used this. There's no grade attached to this, but students find it to be very, very helpful. It's a system of flashcards basically, but they're adaptive. It recognizes which areas you're doing well on, which areas you're not, and it's going to guide you to an ebook, just like the ebook that's in Canvas. So this will take you out to a third-party site from our book. Is called the Connect site, but you don't have to pay for it. There's no access code, but you may have to register the first time with your Heinz email, but then once you've done that, you can get in. It won't be any problem. All right, and so I want to go back now to our first module. Yes, I think I can do it this way. All right, so here we are, and we've just looked at this link for chapter 12, which is what the agenda tells you to do. And then it's going to, in the agenda, it's going to tell you that you've got 2 things that must be turned in this week. You've got an orientation survey. That's the one I've already talked about. It was in the other module called the introduction module, but I also put a link for it here. And then you've got your first quiz. Now, this is just a weekly assignment. But this is going to have questions in it that are similar, not identical, but similar to future test questions. All right, so here, this is the place you want to go weekly to make sure that you have done what you need to do as far as grades are concerned, what you have to submit. It's all going to be listed there for you. And then the information you need to be learning during the week is going to be listed in your chapter resource. Okay, so you'll see you have something similar to that every week. It's set up the same way. Down the road, oops, sorry about that. my little mouse here is very touchy. Um, so here you can see that we have some weeks you'll have a bonus opportunity in the form of discussions, and it shows you when they're due. So there's week 3 and there's week 4. So you've got one of a module set up like this for every one of your weeks. When test time comes along, even the test is listed there for you. That's due that week. So it should be real seamless as long as you go through these modules and you don't just fly by the seat of your pants. Students who do that do not pass this class. If they're just turning in what their to-do list on the home screen, see this to-do list? Of course, this is all my classes, but if they're just doing this stuff, or on that summary section that's in the syllabus link I showed you, it just simply is telling you what's due. It's not telling you what you need to be studying for future tests that count the major part of your grade. So study, 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 study. If you've got any questions, make sure you contact me. Don't wait till the last minute or after the fact. If you've got a question, I'm not an ogre. I love to talk to my students. You can call me. Um, you can on the syllabus page. You can see how to get in touch with me with my phone number. I do ask that you don't call me after 9 o'clock at night. I get up early in the morning, but I go to bed early. So if I'm not answering the phone, just leave a message. But the best thing to do is through the Canvas inbox. I check this quite frequently. Um, all righty. So I know you're going to do well if you apply yourself. Some people say, well, how do I study? How do I study for your test? I just told you. I just told you how you use your notes with the recordings with that study guide. If you do that along with your book, the test questions come from the information covered in those notes. So the notes, that's the big deal. It's those notes. The recordings or my interpretation of the notes. And so I may give you a lot of hints in there, and they just explain it more than just the written notes. So it's very, very important that you watch those. All right. Well, I wish you the best, and I hope you love taking A&P as much as I have loved preparing it for you. Every semester, I learn more things about A&P, and I've been doing this a long time. It is a wonderful, wonderful course. You're going to learn so much about these systems and good luck with it.